Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Hello, I'm Sandy. Welcome to Left of the Box. I know it's been a while since my last video and I had a script ready to go, but it was another devastating story and I felt like there was already enough misery in 2020. Then something happened to me, something positive, and I wanted to share my story because there's important life lessons in what happened. Since this isn't going to be like one of my regular segments, I'm not going to remind you to hit the like and subscribe button or mention you should follow me on Twitter or even note the link to my Patreon page in the description box below, and I'm not going to wait for you to do any of that. Okay, so for you to fully understand what happened, I need to start from the beginning. It's going to sound horrible and depressing at first, but don't worry, it does have a feel-good ending. This is one of my stories. As a child, I had a gift. I was really good at art. Not the okay or it's nice to put up on the fridge. I was above and beyond others my age. I understood shapes and perspectives. I wasn't afraid to experiment, and I could blend and mix colors with ease. I could take a blank piece of paper and make it into a story. There were others in my class exceptional at math or sports, and they got a lot more attention than me because they had talents in something that were useful. But even at that young age, I understood what I had was special, and I was grateful for it. I would have never changed that talent to something else, even if that other talent would bring me more attention and opportunities. My art was a part of me. As I got older, my skills improved. I could do photographic illustration. When I would work on a picture, I would get into an almost trance-like state and be so focused on the detail, I would block out everything around me. When I was done and stepped back from what I created, I'd be astonished at what I did because I had been so deep into it, I wasn't even aware of all the detail I was adding or how the overall image was coming together. Not all of my art was realistic. Some was abstract or object work, or sometimes I would just put together elements of drawings that I had been practiced at doing. In my late teens, early 20s, I knew I was only scratching the surface of what I was capable of, and the day would come when I would no longer have to rely on physical pictures for reference and would be able to use the images in my mind. That's when my art would be taken to the next level. But then my life and mental health fell apart. I wound up in the shelter system in Toronto after not being able to work, partly because my depression had taken its toll on me. I had nowhere else to go at the time and had no idea where I was heading. Even then, I had my sketchbook with me. I'd find a quiet corner in the shelter and work on my drawings. It brought me an escape, some comfort, and made me feel like I was still capable of doing something good. I remember at the time I was experimenting with those gel pens, the ones with the metallic shine to them. I wanted to see if I could replicate the shimmer to a butterfly's wing. And yeah, I could. In the shelter, I met a guy, and he became my boyfriend. He wasn't a good person. He never physically abused me, but he played with my emotions, tore me down, was unmatched in his ability to gaslight, manipulated me, never once told me the truth about anything in his life, and overall, he hurt me. We moved out of the shelter together back to my hometown. I had no friends and no one I felt like I could turn to for support. My mental health was in such bad shape that I was incapable of helping myself. Thankfully, the relationship didn't last long, and when he left, he was completely out of my life because I didn't mean anything to him anyway. It wasn't until after the relationship was over that I realized the entire year I was with him, I didn't draw a single picture or sing a single song. The first time I sat down to draw a picture, it wasn't good. And that hurt me far more than he ever did. I tried to understand that I was out of practice, and I tried a few more times, but my emotions were still too raw and I was vulnerable. The pain of not being able to draw the way that I used to was so overwhelming, I had to stop trying, no matter how devastated I was at losing my talent. Eventually, I took vocal lessons and was able to get my singing voice back. Not as good as it was, but good enough for a non-professional. My vocal teacher called me a mezzo belter. I have a lower range and can project my voice to fill the space I'm in. I love finding a spot with good acoustics, a hall or an empty stage, and when no one is around, singing out with all of my lungs, having my voice surround me and flow through the air. It allows me to release a part of myself I can't normally express. But my drawing, this was the last original piece I did years ago after years of nothing. It's one line and a perfect over-under weave. I came up with it when a friend who knew about my story was trying to encourage me to get back in my art. And so he told me that for his birthday, he wanted me to make him a wall-worthy picture. I called him a bastard and said I'd see what I can do. Somehow my brain figured it out. And I don't mean to dismiss what it is, but working on it wasn't the same as working on a detailed pencil sketch. And I haven't been able to create this kind of thing since. It felt like a fluke. Over the years, I've been able to use photography as an artistic outlet. I never lost my eye for framing a picture, and I really enjoy it. And yeah, I use those adult coloring books as a way to play with color and blending. It provides me a tiny bit of creative release. But every time I tried to draw something new, I fell flat. And every time, it hurt. On one of my walls, I have up drawings and paintings I did back during my prime. And while I like having them up there and admiring them, they also bring me a sense of sadness, reminding me of the talent that I lost. My absolute biggest regret in life was losing my ability to do art. To me, it was more than drawing. It was almost spiritual, an extension of my soul, and it was gone forever. So a few weeks ago, I'm watching The Majority Report, and Sam Seder talks about this guy, Letter Hack, on Twitter, someone who draws cartoons of them and other progressives, and how for his birthday, he asked people to tweet at him pictures they drew of Sam and the MR crew. Now, I'm new to Twitter, and I didn't know who Letter Hack was, and most of the birthday-related tweets I've come across so far are along the lines of, I always tweet at people a happy birthday when it's their birthday, and it's my birthday today, and no one has tweeted at me a happy birthday. 2020 is the worst. Okay, so there's a lot of layers to that, and I'll be doing a Let's Talk segment and taking a deep dive into people who seek validation on social media or feel like they are owed other people's attention. Seriously, if that's what pushed 2020 over the top for you, you're probably doing all right. So to see Letter Hack's, Matt's, tweet, I found it to be charming and a wonderful ask for a birthday wish. What could be more positive than asking people to bring art into the world? Since I'm a fan of The Majority Report and of Sam Seder in particular, I thought, why not take a leap of faith on this stranger and give it a try? My first task was to find an image of Sam to work from. I had 3 criteria in mind: clean shaven, smiling, and without the mic in his face. Turns out, not that easy to come across. I went through a crazy amount of clips and had my finger ready to hit pause so I could get a screen grab. I felt like a freaking wildlife photographer sitting by a waterhole with a remote camera trigger in hand. Hello folks, we have a treat for you. We have come across a Samuel Lincoln cedar in his natural habitat, a studio. As you can obviously see, he is average for a specimen of his kind. Definitely not the alpha of his pack. He is looking satisfied after devouring a libertarian for lunch, followed by a honey crisp apple. Note his smooth cheeks. He must have used his Harry's razor this morning to groom himself. Who says you can't be cheap and sharp at the same time? He is moving away from his mic and a grin is forming. But then he sticks out his tongue. Perhaps he senses danger in the air, a new technology, or just a change in the winds. It has been a dry financial season. He might be preparing to migrate to a new platform with a more bountiful source of income. Fans only. He turns, and there we have it, folks, the perfect smile. Blocked by the mic he is resting his nose on. He apparently is still learning his surroundings and has yet to figure out how to speak into the mic. Well, folks, that's all the time we have. Stay tuned next week when we examine the Samuel Lincoln cedar mating dance. I finally got 2 screen grabs and a found image to work from. I went to the office supply store to make prints, and with the small amount of spending cash that I had, gifted myself new pencils, erasers, and an electric pencil sharpener. New tools for a new start. Back at home, I turned on Armin van Buuren's State of Trance YouTube channel and got to it. Right from the beginning, I knew I had to cheat, and by cheat, I mean use a ruler to measure features out. I had 2 false starts with the screen grabs. I thought since they weren't as detailed that they would be easier to do, but I couldn't get either of them to click. I was almost ready to give up after just starting because the third image, the found one, it was more detailed, so obviously would be more difficult to do. And that's when I clued into it. I needed the detail. I'm obsessive compulsive with some things, and only when it interferes with my life do I add the word disorder to the end of it. Being OC has actually benefited me with certain tasks. It allows me to data mine large amounts of information, learn new things, problem solve, and hyper-focus on tiny details. If I'm working in Photoshop at the pixel level, I'm having a good time. I guess this is why I can never draw cartoons unless I was copying someone else's work, and why I always admired people who could draw cartoons. I hyper-focused and measured out Sam's glasses and features, and with that was able to sketch the main outlines of his face. I still didn't feel like this was going to come together and took a break to go for my daily power walk to clear my mind. When I got back, I started the infill shading. It didn't feel right, and I was getting frustrated. That's when a gentle voice in my head said, "Take a breath and try freehanding it more." In other words, trust my instincts. As I continued, his features became more defined, and suddenly, when I was working on his eyes, I saw something. A spark. And in that moment, I knew that the talent that had been missing had found its way back, and I began to cry. My hand wasn't directing the pencil was directing my hand. It magically knew where to go. A simple darkened line, a light scribble, a tiny detail, each element making the picture look more alive. I had to stop myself at times to compose myself because the last thing I needed was tears on the page. Here I am having a profound moment, sobbing over a picture of Sam. Yeah, that stirred up some unexpected, complicated emotions. Those were some awkward feelings. As I got back into it, it was so easy. I remembered all my techniques, and hearing the pencil scribble on the page brought back feelings I hadn't had since before my ex-boyfriend. When I finished and I stepped back and looked at what I created, it wasn't just good, it was exceptional, and it was the first drawing I had done in ages. I had to ask myself, if I had the ability to do that and didn't know it, then what else do I have the ability to do? What am I capable of if I just try? And for the first time, even with all of my doubts and only around 50 subscribers to my YouTube channel, I truly believed that this is something I can do and do well, so long as I stick to it, be patient, and keep learning. And all I ask from you who are watching is to be patient with me while I learn to make these videos better. Now I'm going to show you the drawing. First I'll show you the picture I worked from, and then it will merge into the drawing. Keep in mind, I don't have a scanner and couldn't get a high quality digital copy of my drawing. It is a photograph of my drawing that has been put through a video editing program and rendered. It's not going to look as good or as smooth as the original. You're just going to have to take my assurance to be about 30% more impressed, and that the physical drawing feels like it has life to it, which having it in my living room staring at me all day is kind of creepy, but I'm lonely. Is it perfect? No, the color is way off. His hair is more smudged than shading, and there's no glare on the glasses. But it still stirred up something deep inside me. An urge, a desire to do more drawing. I needed to know if this was a fluke. I went through my photos and 4 selected themselves for me to draw. The results were so much more than I could have imagined. As I started each one, I had doubts I could pull it off, and the gentle voice told me to take a breath and continue working, that it would take time for the image to form. But I would push back, and the voice told me my instinct picked these pictures for a reason, because a part of me knew I could do it. I still worried, and the voice said, "Would you snap out of your self-doubt? Look at the portrait you just drew. If you can do that, you can do these. Now stop it with your self-trolling and get back to it." I had a point. The thing with pencil sketches is they don't look good until they do. What I had to do was let go and stop trying to duplicate the picture and instead use them as a guide and fill in areas with my own style. Each image had its own challenge, and I used techniques I didn't know I had to create images I never even attempted back during my peak. Because of my insane attention to details, my pictures have a different viewing experience depending on how far away from them you are. And finally, in color. I guess my work with adult coloring books wasn't a complete waste of time. When I stepped back from each image, I was left breathless. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I made these. I had no idea I was capable of this. And if this is my starting point, then nothing will be out of reach for me, and I will never lose this gift again. This is why it's so important as people we reach out and connect with one another. Did Matt know that by tweeting his simple ask that he would change a person's life? Of course not. I didn't know this would happen when I started. But without him asking, I would have never found out. It's not like I was just going to sit down and randomly draw a picture of Sam. Like, that would be silly. Why? I wouldn't do that. Why would I do that? I wouldn't do that. I wasn't in love with him. What I chose to do was take a leap of faith on a stranger. And sometimes when you take that leap, it has very little to do with the stranger and more about learning where you land. One of the reasons why I'm so open with my mental health is because I've seen that moment in a person when I've been talking about it and something in it shatters a wall within them, and in that instant, their life changed. Only when we are open and honest with one another do we find the things we need or learn we're not alone and can give to others the gift they needed. Now when I look at my wall, I no longer feel sadness. I look forward to the art that I'll be adding to it. And no, I'm not going to put the picture of Sam up on my wall. That would be absurd. I'm not in high school. I don't go putting up pictures of my crush. Not that I have a crush on him, because I don't. Look, I'm not going to put the picture of Sam up on the wall with my art, okay? So far, there's only been 2 downsides to this discovery. One, I haven't been able to focus on making my regular videos. I get obsessed with one task at a time. I promise I will get back to making videos about the news and progressive analysis Canadians need to know and continue with my deep dives into social and mental health issues. I'm also making it my mission on Twitter to correct Americans every time they hold Canada up as an ideal. We are struggling with all the same issues, and the fact they don't know that is part of the problem. We need cross-border solidarity because we are fighting the same battles, and together we can make progressive progress. The second thing is, my majority report watching experience has changed. Now every time I see Sam on the screen, I want to burst into tears. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Ruben, Grouter, yeah, like babies. I have had so many bad experiences in my life. I've had so much taken away from me. I've had my hope beat out of me. I've been devastated. I have an uncertain future that has just filled me with worry. There's been so much negativity that for years I have been needing something good to happen in my life. A good change. I thought I lost this gift forever. To have it back, my soul feels complete for the first time This is the good thing I needed to keep going. So Matt, I know you feel like you didn't do anything to help me, but without your part in my journey, I might not have ever gotten here. There are no words to express my gratitude, which is why one of the 4 drawings you just saw is yours. DM me on Twitter and let me know which one you'd like, and I'll send you the original. The important lessons to take away from this is stop underestimating yourself. Society and other people do a good job telling you what you can't do. You don't need to add your own voice to that negativity. When you feel compassion for others, remember to direct some of that compassion back towards yourself. The hardest step is the first one, to believe in yourself. And coming from my background of depression, I know it is so much easier said than done. Let me help you take that first step. In case you need to hear it, I'll say it. You get to determine what you are capable of, and I believe you are capable of doing amazing things. Don't leave your possibilities to the unknown. Just because you couldn't do something doesn't mean you can't. Maybe all those times I tried to draw and fail was because I didn't believe I had the ability and I gave up too soon. Or maybe I was just too scared to fail again. Learn from my mistakes. Don't wait years. Take that leap of faith on yourself and see where you land. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandee, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.